Well, that's interesting. Why aren't you on the screen?
Well, I'm not
There you
necessarily
are.
convinced that that's such a bad thing.
Well, I come sliding into home plate at the last minute, didn't even have the software ready. I was so engrossed in listening to Queen David at today's council meeting, I completely lost track of time.
I told you. I messaged you and said, "You're not gonna believe this. You
Oh,
gotta watch it."
I didn't even get all the way through it. So I'm going to actually, I guess, if we talk about it, see some of it, or hear some of it for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it blew my mind. He came unglued. I mean, look, I don't know about came unglued, if that's the word
Hmm.
to describe it, but he went on a rant. I mean, it was almost like he was preaching.
He may as well have pulled out a Bible or whatever he wanted to and done a sermon.
But newsflash, the end result was nothing new.
Yeah, nothing new. Okay. So we've got several things to talk about, even though I don't have much of an agenda posted for us this evening. I'm still adjusting cameras. I updated the software. It's I've been dealing with fishing stuff. It's been one of those weeks. And we did skip a week because we were dealing with term limits last week and still this week. So it's just kind of been, I don't know, one of those weeks.
Yeah, one of those weeks. But hey, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. I mean, we've got some house cleaning to do from a show ago. Look, the BJ Sanford thing, we got a little bit of updated information regarding that.
Really?
Um, there is actually information about, a Bossier Watch viewer that we're going to
Mm.
talk about that's been in the news.
Oh, yes. Yeah. A little reporting
And
on that today involving fishing drama. We'll get to that.
yeah, and then, the Halton tax vote, we didn't follow up on that and how the results of that turned out. I mean, that was pretty interesting. And then, of course, what happened with the Bossier City Port water deal, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, to be honest, as usual, I am flying by the seat of my pants. I hope we've got some kind of notes or you were able to get some kind of notes because otherwise we're going to completely ad lib this thing, but we'll see how it turns out.
yeah, we'll do it. So let's go to our little break thing and come
Countdown
back
thingy.
and
Yeah.
get it done.
All right, well, folks, y'all know the
Yep.
drill. We're glad to have everybody signed on and watching. We will be back in about 2.5 to 3 minutes while we do the countdown. That gives y'all time to grab some popcorn, a stiff drink if you need it. Tag and share this out. We do have several things to talk about tonight, of course, as usual, and get on our soapboxes. We'll be right back.
They feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
In all honesty, we try to lay low a little bit because of the fear that we would not be able to camp there.
And I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Hello, everybody. I don't think I've ever done a video before on here, but yeah, I wanted to tell y'all what frustrates me a little bit about permits.
Cockroach of the week is, drumroll please, Allie Feaster Smith.
We can't be apathetic about what's going on in our state. We have to all pull up our bootstraps and get on top of this. So you're right. There's a problem out there. I mean, and man, you can see it everywhere.
Well, look, we have allowed government to become our wherewithal to everything.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
You're about to be killed by SMVOD, or you're gonna die in 5 minutes.
This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by David B. Womack for all your contracting and construction needs. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting is an IWTP customized training provider with over 25 years of success to show for it. Call them for a free consultation today. Pelican Training and Consulting matches employers with 50-plus employees with training dollars. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Hey, in the countdown there, I mentioned the words Allie Feaster Smith. I heard a rumor, so tell me if this is true or not, that you and Allie Feaster Smith
Now,
were like chumming it up, best buddy, pals, and friends. What's up?
oh my good gracious. Okay, so was this rumor on social media, or was this actually a rumor that you picked up from the public somewhere?
Well, it could be either. I can't reveal my sources. You know how us
Yeah,
quasi amateur
yeah.
journalists are.
Well, I have to admit that at the Bossier Peck meeting last night, there was actually very friendly conversation between Allie Feaster Smith and myself. It was like we had been pals forever. It had a pleasant conversation, I have to say.
Well, that's very interesting. So, do we want to talk some more about that PEC meeting, or we'll save that for a little bit on the show? Or was there anything of any substance at the meeting? I hear you're chairman of the PEC now. Is that true?
Well, that is accurate. That is
Okay.
accurate, and I have to tell you, I about choked on my tongue last night a little bit, but biting my tongue is a hard thing to do. I don't have much experience at that, and I sure got a boatload of it last night. I did.
Oh, well, that sounds very interesting, and I'm proud of you for biting your tongue. It's very hard for you and for me to do. We usually try to tell it like it is for the most part, and don't usually keep our mouths shut to the dismay of many folks, and sometimes to the dismay of, well,
That,
ourselves.
that's right. That's right. Well, hey, Rex, do you remember a couple of shows ago? Somebody had sent us I can't remember how it came to us exactly or the circumstances, but somebody messaged and wanted to know how it was that BJ Sanford
Yeah.
was out of jail, like
Right.
across the weekend.
Right.
And so it was a surprise to us. We didn't know. And so we talked about it on our show and we was like, hey, if anybody knows, maybe somebody can, figure out, tell us what the deal is or what actually was going on. Well, in Proton Mail, and I made a little I snagged it and put it in the file, cut one, but Big Rick at Proton Mail sent us a message. Don't know who Big Rick is. Thank you, Big Rick. And told us what the deal was.
Hmm. Okay, so let me see if I can. Why are my show files not pulling up here? As usual. What's the deal here?
Well, anyway,
Yeah,
Big
anyway.
Rick, I can read it to you. Big Rick says, "Hey fellas, hate to tell you, but he pled guilty already in federal court. His malfeasance charges are still pending in district court. He was released for 4 days to visit his mother, who is dying."
Hmm.
Oh, Monica Hudson, she obviously is working on behalf of my wife.
Yeah, apparently. So,
so So I don't know. See, folks, my screen is like all screwed up. Technology is not working. Like I am a blur on the screen. But what I
you
want
look
to show
crystal
you is
clear on our end.
okay. Well, y'all see this crazy hat that I'm wearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I was in London, I would be a dapper kind of guy.
Ooh,
And
dapper. Hear those
yeah,
big
dapper.
words he's using.
And here, let me adjust so you can see this stinking shirt.
Your wife went to London and all you got was this lousy t-shirt. Somewhere I
Yeah.
want to insert Austin Power jokes, but you know.
So happy wife, happy life, guys. That makes sense. So I am doing what I need to do to, have that happy wife and happy life. And David Womack, this hat is going to be for you at the next PEC meeting. Just stand by, brother. It's coming your way.
Coming straight to you. So, just so you know, I still don't see any of the files in our folder here for show 49 dash question 149 dash question mark. So, I don't know what's up with that. We're apparently going to have to wing this. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. We'll try 140.
try what?
Yeah.
Technical
Anyway. All right.
difficulties,
So
folks.
you, yeah, let's move on to
Yeah.
your part of this show. And it seems like the fishing league has had a little bit of a setback.
Well, it has, and so we'll address this. And I want to say this first. Our litmus test on the show is if something has a political tie-in. For instance, when we talk about First Bossier, that's because, the church has been weaponized in the past politically, and we've gone through all that and whatnot. And so we usually don't talk about individuals, per se, unless there's a political tie-in. So the reason I've got to address this is because there is an obvious friendship between Jeremy Gallman and myself through the fishing community. And he's commented on our show in the past, and I labeled him future, Bossier mayor, future Sobo mayor, or whatever. So we'll go ahead and address the elephant in the room. KSLA ran a story earlier today on Jeremy Gallman and some allegations of, I don't know, it was embezzlement or whatever, of some of the funds for the South Bossier Panthers fishing team. So that's all over the news. It's blowing up on social media, so I wanted to put it out there. And also the fact that on March the 18th of this year, we did get a Proton mail in from a Yahoo account that actually mentioned this. That was back on March the 18th. Well, to be honest, I thought it was from, somebody who was not really for us putting on that big Bass Classic tournament that we did last weekend, or actually weekend before last, I guess, and all that. And there was no proof of it. It was just an allegation, and I actually did dig into it a little bit and couldn't find any proof or anybody that was willing to talk about it. Well, as it turns out, it was actually true. So you can go look at KSLA's webpage or Facebook page if you want to see more information. The allegations are out there. I would encourage everybody that doesn't necessarily mean they're true.
Now, wait a minute. Well, that's right, because you said it was true, and I'm trying to clarify. So, were you saying that it's true, the allegations are true, or the charges?
I'm saying
or
it is.
are you saying that it's true that what was alleged in that Proton mail was true?
I'm saying that what was alleged in that Proton mail, that he was being investigated, is a fact. He was investigated. To be clear, because it's public record, he was arrested last week. He did bond out and bail out and all that. So that part of it is true, but I'm not saying that the allegations were true because I don't know all of the allegations. And, innocent till proven guilty, so we'll see. I wish him the best of luck, and if, wish his family, I know, he's got kids and...
Now...
Go ahead.
Well, did this have anything to do? Did this have anything to do with the big tournament, or is this only with because you participated in the big tournament?
Right.
I don't know that you had anything to do with. You were you helped them out on the big tournament.
I did the social media and all that.
Right, but where all of this is coming from is limited to just like the Parkway High School fishing league or fishing team or something, right?
Well, to be a little clear, because I do understand how that works as far as the fishing league and, how the teams generally are set up. So I've got a little bit of knowledge of that, so I'll share that. According to the allegations from what I can see, publicly, what's out there publicly, the allegations are with the South Bossier, not Parkway, with the South Bossier Panthers fishing team. So as I understand it, it was an independent club or fishing team that was set up and not directly related to the school. Now, I may be incorrect about that. And it's dealing with that and, some money transfers and all that. So that's about as much as I know with that. Now, it's to be clear,
this was
let me also share this too. So he did, Jeremy Gallman did come up with the idea for the high school bass classic that we did put on, week March the 25th and 26th. He was ahead of that. He did all the money, all the paperwork, and all that, sponsorships and all that. I did the social media part of it, and as far as I know, all the kids were paid, and the winning teams were paid. All the vendors were paid, and then a few days after that, he did get arrested.
Well, we sometime back we've got a proton mail regarding another high school fishing, league team or whatever. I don't know the correct terminology, so y'all have to forgive me if I'm not accurate, but regarding something in Benton. There were allegations of donations, that were made to us. We haven't really followed up on it or investigated it, but there were allegations of donations that were made to a fishing team in Benton. And, those donations made its way to the coach or whoever. I don't even know who the name of the person was that team. It was just alleged that we should look into that. So is there, Rex, I want to say, I mean, are there any rules or accountability on these teams, or how does this work? I mean, because I know there was a Facebook page that was going on regarding this issue. It may have been on Doug Warner's page, and it morphed into a baseball team, and there were allegations being made about a travel ball team or something. And it seems like this might be a common problem among a lot of these things with problems with money. I mean, and
Well,
donations and stuff.
well, so for instance, with the high school, the North Louisiana High School Fishing League, which, I know a pretty good bit about how that's structured, obviously. So the way that these work is, most of them are private clubs, or they're not necessarily affiliated with the high school per se. And so if they're private clubs, then they're accountable to themselves. Now, there are a few that are associated directly with the high school, or maybe even on the middle school side, maybe the middle schools, and they may have more checks and balances as far as, having to report directly to the schools. But some of them are private clubs.
Yeah, well, man, I got to tell you, I mean, that I just if you're guilty of taking from the kids and here in these schools for your private purposes, I mean, I don't care who it is, even if it was you, or if it was me. I mean, man, they need to get a spanking for that. I just
Well, we made a promise when we started the show that we would hold everybody accountable, including ourselves, if it came down to it.
yeah.
And so, like I said, there are charges and allegations. That is public record. He was arrested and then subsequently bonded or bailed out or whatever. And whether he's guilty or not, I don't know. I can say this: in all of my dealings with him, it was always about the kids and, trying to put the kids on a pedestal. And a lot of people dealt with him as well. And, he always seemed to be about making things better for the kids. Now, whether he's guilty of this or not, I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It seems like, I mean, this is a wider discussion. I mean, in society as a whole, I mean, it seems like that are we going down the tubes all the way around? What does everybody think? Do y'all think, I mean, we're going to hell in a handbag? I mean, and arguably, I mean, look, Donald Trump today,
Yeah.
they're trying to hook him up on stupid stuff. And I
Well,
seen I
did
seen
you watch the news for that? Did he have to do a perp walk? I
no,
knew it was happening, but I didn't pay attention to it today.
I look, he would have been sitting there just like counting dollars in his head if they'd have perp walked him. I mean, he's already he's going to make more money off of this than he has probably in any venture he's ever
That's
done.
true.
But the point was they were saying that he falsified these records, and somebody's already fact checked it on every single day, on every single count, and in every one of them, he wasn't even in New York. He was in DC or over in Europe because they were while he was the president. There's no way he could have physically signed or done any of these documents.
Wait, are you saying that they were trumped up charges?
but
Sorry, I couldn't
but look,
resist that. That was a silly pun.
where are we at? Does the law really even matter anymore? Or are we seeing, like this, for example, with Jeremy, are we seeing the beginning of where everybody is finally saying, you know what? The law doesn't matter anymore. You know what? It
Well,
it's irrelevant. You do what you can do just to get away with it. Because
I,
somewhere in the comments just a minute ago, hang on, let me scroll up. Who was it? Who was
yeah,
it? Somebody, Greg Bell. Greg Bell says, if you need some content, you can throw out how the Webster Parish DA blocked me on Facebook, an illegal act. We've already been talking about the police jury doing crappy stuff with Butch
right,
Ford and all that stuff in the spirit of the law, and bending the rules. We've talked about historically, some of the cases that have went before the 26 JDC up there. And now you've got Greg Bell is talking about how he's being blocked from on the, I don't know, Greg, send us some stuff. And I'll tell
right,
you what, next show, whatever you're talking about, you send it to us, and next show we'll talk about it.
right.
Um, just are we seeing everything? Are we seeing the early stages of everything starting to collapse?
Well,
I
I don't
mean,
know about that. I was discussing that with somebody today, and not the collapse of society, but we all have a very skewed perspective because remember, all this stuff was happening or different things were happening before, but what do we have now that we did not have even 10 or 15 years ago, but certainly not 25 or 30 years ago? What one thing do we have?
oh, TikTok.
Now, yeah, that's part of it. But we all have these, which are basically, they're not phones, they're communications devices. And we're literally living through the information age and the communication age. So stuff happens and we literally know it relatively instantly. And I think that's the key difference. And so we perceive that this stuff is happening more. Look, it's like the old adage.
But but
Do,
look, it's a slippery slope. It's how many times have we had Jill Hines on here talking about COVID and the mandates and the illegal activities of the government, and now you've got you know cases where you have a judiciary that is applying the law, and you're able to see the reality and what's really happening. And I mean, I got to tell you, I think the threads are starting to come apart. And
well,
are
maybe
we
so,
going to see?
but maybe because more eyes and ears are listening and watching, you know, credit to the show. Maybe the eyes and ears of everybody, because we all have phones and cameras and instant communications or near real time communications. Maybe we're paying attention closer. I don't know. It's an interesting time to live in. So I want to point out a couple of things since David went ahead and made the comments. Our good friend David Jones, he says, kind of embarrassing, but I tried to get him more money, but we wrote no check. Would not have done it until it was over in the Red River. Originally, we were going to have that tournament on the Red River because of the high water and the public ramps were closed and all that. We ended up moving it to Caddo Lake. David, I want you to know, you know, I appreciate all your help because the kids did have an excellent time. You can go and watch the videos on the High School Bass Classic page, and all the parents. We had a pretty large participation and all that. So the kids did get absolutely what was paid for, but as far as the rest of it, I don't know. We'll see. So I wanted to make sure and address that. And let's see. Yeah, so damage did every kid. I'm trying to. Yes. All right. So John McMurray says, what are the damages? Did every kid not fish? Weren't all the kids that won paid? How do you embezzle from your own company? Those are good points, J Mac. Every kid that fished, as far as I know, in the class, as a matter of fact, I do know for a fact, every kid that fished and won money in that tournament, including the boat captains, the adults, the over 18s in there, they did get absolutely paid. All the teams also, we paid down to like 30 teams as far as getting rods or prizes. They all got theirs. All the vendors were paid as far as I know. So on that end, it went well.
Now, Thomas Shea makes a pretty good point there, that, if it's an activity that uses the school name or it falls into the school oversight, well, that makes me wonder even more about what went on at Benton High School. And maybe we need to follow up on that.
Yeah, maybe so. Because I remember us getting that information, and, I stay pretty connected, obviously, to the high school fishing and all that because it's one of my passions, as well as just bass fishing in general. And I think they got all that resolved. I think it was just some allegations, but we need to follow up and see. Yeah.
Yeah, so David Gallman says, why did the winner's checks show up at the police station?
Yeah. Well, and that is, in full disclosure, that's Jeremy's older brother, David. That's a good question, David. Lots of questions in this. And, well, I'll just say this, and then we'll go ahead and move on. There were some comments made when I posted some of the photos from that tournament. There were some comments made by one of the individuals who reported the allegations, and I'll just leave it at that. He since retracted those comments and did issue me an apology about putting it on something that should be about the kids and where the focus is on the kids. So I would like to remind everybody, here it's a little bit different. Our rules are different. But on the fishing pages, we would ask that everybody refrain from posting about this on the league page and on the High School Bass Classic page, because a lot of the kids see that stuff too, and we don't want to detract from the kids. We can hash this all out on Bossier Watch or on your individual, Facebook feeds or whatever you want to do. Michael Ferris says, how does a high school conduct oversight on activities it does not financially support? Let's see. What else? I'm just trying to go through some of the comments, so you can feel free to ad lib any minute.
Yeah, no, I was looking at a message. We already got a message in there from Greg Bell in Messenger, but again, we'll come back to that next show.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing, and we'll just have to see how all this plays out.
Yes, we will. I mean, hopefully there will be a silver lining to the end of this, that it'll get resolved. I mean, hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess if I had to do a political tie-in to it, it would have to be that the Red River Waterway Commission and the Shreveport Bossier Sports Commission, did help sponsor the thing, or the Red River Waterway Commission was at the beginning till we shifted it all for the Red River. I guess that's the political tie-in there. But I don't want to drag Jeremy through the mud for this yet until we see how all this plays out. We'll report on it as we find stuff, but I'm not gonna try to run him through the ringer because he's not a public official.
Right, absolutely. I mean, look, and there's some good comments in the comment section there, and we'll follow it to the end.
Yeah, a claim does not mean guilt. Oh, gee, David, that means like the claims against Trump might not be. They got all this proof, and surely a DA would never bring anything without proof. And sometimes they don't bring stuff even when there's overwhelming proof, like a vehicle going off a bridge, or am I remembering that right? But anyway, so,
Oh, wow.
uh,
Okay. Anyway, yeah. Well, hey, and the 2020 election was rigged. I'm just gonna go on and say that Trump actually won.
okay. And I'm sure we'll be booted off of Facebook in 5, 4, 3,
Oh,
2.
and COVID, that was not real either. I mean, that was just a cold, and
You,
you
you
you were
want to
all you were all duped to make Pfizer more wealthy.
You want to push the limits tonight. I can see already. I'm getting ready to kind of bounce around, platforms so we can keep going.
I mean, look, the censor police are out there. It's already been proven. Your Attorney General Jeff Landry and the Attorney General of Missouri and one of the plaintiffs who is somebody who's been on our show, Jill Hines.
Are
I
you
mean,
trying to are you trying to
they
stop the show early? I mean, we
they
can just run out of stuff
they
to talk about. Don't get us
they,
booted.
they proved it. It's true. It's true. Okay. I mean, the government has been doing this crap.
Let's see. I want to. Let's see.
You may
J
not like
Mac.
what I'm saying, but
Yeah,
it's the truth.
I'm gonna put up a few comments here. Oh, and I'm sure when I put this one up, we'll be booted any minute now because our good friend David Womack says Epstein didn't commit suicide.
So can we get booted for what somebody does in the comments? Like,
Well, I guess
golly,
I don't know.
David.
I don't know.
So, hey,
Uh,
what about Halton? Remember Halton? They had a little tax vote out there. They
yeah.
want
So what
reduction
happened with
tax
that?
money.
I've been so wrapped up in fishing as far as getting the social media and all that stuff done for the tournaments, and I know they had a tax vote in Houghton. What happened?
Well, it failed, and it failed miserably. Did you ever find the show 149 folder, the correct one with 3 question marks?
Do we have more than one? Yeah. Well, I have
Yeah.
the show 149 folder with 2 question marks.
There's one
Is
with 3
there?
question marks. That's the correct one. So, yeah, David Womack, we love some H-Town. I mean, look, that's my alma mater. That's where I graduated, was Halton High School. I mean, there's not a fishing hole in Halton that I don't know. I know them all, fished them all of them, and never got caught. Any of the ones that had posted signs. I didn't. Never. No, sorry, Bob. Ask Perry
Oh,
Dent.
wait a minute. Now there's one with 3 question marks, and then here's the notes with 4 question marks. Why do I not see that in my deal? All right,
I have
hold on.
no idea.
Let me. Okay. All right, I can fix this. Keep jabbering and buy me some
Yeah.
time while I
So,
fix the technical difficulties here.
So anyway, I got to digging around a little bit in some of the H-Town thing. Now I remember it wasn't too long ago. The somebody had said, look, you ought to really kind of look at the town of Halton. So I went back trying to look at the minutes of their previous meetings, and they weren't there. Well, I'm happy to report that I looked here recently after this tax election, and it was all updated. Everything was there. So I just kind
Okay.
of perused through some of their meetings, and one jumped out at me, December 13th of 22. And one councilman out there, Colby Isom, made a motion to amend the budget, the 2023 budget, to reflect the fact that uh, there was a 2% salary increase on top of an already 2% increase for all hourly employees, of the town. And the mayor, I think I don't remember. It's not Cathcart. Cathcart was the mayor in Benton. Anyway, the mayor of Halton declared that out of order. And basically they didn't pass it. They didn't let him amend the minutes. So they gave a pay raise on top of a pay raise. One councilman wanted to have that entered into the record, and the chair, which was the mayor, declared that out of order. So it didn't get included. And I can't help but think in my mind that the reason that you did that was so that when you went into this, knowing you were going to push this tax vote, when you went into this time, you didn't want it to be able to be said to the public that you had pay raises 2% on top of 2%.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
And I may have that wrong, but that's just from an outsider looking in the way the picture appears to me. Nobody's told me that. I read it, and that was kind of the conclusion. I may be wrong, but if somebody's watching and that's not the case, by all means tell me I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. Um, so why would correcting the budget numbers to reflect an actual true cost? Why would that be out of order? That's a paradox to me. So, I did notice something else. Now, hey, what's
Mhm.
that little town? Everybody knows there's a little famous town when you were always remember we always having to go to Baton Rouge and they called it you don't speed through that little town, right?
Right.
Remember who knows what town was that? If you go through that town, you're getting a speeding ticket.
Well, Duboc, Louisiana is one of them. I mean, they were all for many years were constantly driving around in new police cars. I mean, they wrote a ridiculous number of tickets. But anyway, and Mooringsport's a good one right now, because the traffic's diverted around because they took out the bridge and they're rebuilding it. So Mooringsport's writing plenty of tickets too. But anyway,
Oh no, wait a minute. Was it Crotch Springs? Was that it?
I don't know.
So one of them little towns there. Anyway, yep,
Yeah.
Julie Ferris of Crotch Springs. I thought that was what it was. So I started noticing that every council meeting, they they're having reports from the police department out there on how many citations they're writing. It
Hmm.
almost that's a part of their meeting.
Like they're trying to run the numbers up.
Well, I'm not saying
Like
they were trying to
quotas
run the
maybe.
numbers up. I don't know, but I'm just saying, why is the quantity of citations that you write pertinent to your council meetings why is that a major part of your meetings?
Hmm.
And for example, on March the 8th of 22, they reported that they had 66 citations for a total of $19,796.
Wow.
So they're equating the monetary number to the number of citations written. I mean, it almost sounded like or read to me that they're the new speed trap of Louisiana. They're trying to fund their department off of citations out there.
I mean, we all talk about that amongst ourselves about different communities doing that. I mean, is that really anything unusual or new?
No, it's not, but it seems like it is new for Halton. Halton wasn't always the Crotch Springs of Louisiana. They were
Well,
not that place.
I would beg to
But
differ. And here's how I can say that. Let me go back to the screenshot to the vote turnout. I had to rename that folder, by the way, and take those question marks off, and then it showed up in my Google Drive. I don't know why. Anyway, I look, my kids have donated plenty of money to the Houghton Police Department. You know, to much to my dismay, and I'm not saying that they weren't speeding or whatever, but I'm just saying that's nothing new, or at least not within the last, well, since my kids have been driving 5 or 6 years. So, fortunately, the last speeding ticket that I got was about, I don't know, it's about 8 or 10 years ago. Coming back from Spring Hill of all places.
yeah. Well, you got those results up there, and
Right.
some of the things that I wanted to, or that jumped out at me, and I wanted to cover regarding those results was actually the early voting. Um, statistically, to me, somebody may pose the question, and we're not talking about a huge number of votes here. We're really not. But somebody said, you know, would this thing, if there hadn't have been opposition, would it have passed or would it not have passed? I would contend that I don't think it would have passed anyway. I think, because kind of when the red flag got raised, was people kind of started saying some stuff to us. We covered it a little bit. And then, the folks out there in the community, they rose up and they, started spending a little money to oppose it. And, you know, I would contend, I think the question is did that have the effect to kill it, or was it going to die anyway? I'm
Well,
kind of thinking it was going
take
to die anyway.
I think you're right because if you take a look at, and I'm trying to adjust cameras while we're sitting there talking too. So if you take a look at the early voting, I can't remember if we talked about it um, before the early voting or after. But if you take a look at the early voting, that's a pretty good indicator. 60% no of how folks were generally going to vote as well. And I think the early voting was probably over or close to over by the time we got wind of it.
That's right. I think it was too. And that's why I drew the conclusion that I think this thing would have failed anyway. And then on election day, you see the numbers jumped up, 70 and 74% respectively in those precincts against it. I I think it was going to die anyway. I think
I
it was a
think you're right.
failed endeavor.
And I'd also like to point out, not to dredge up, past history, but the Bossier School Board tax, which was, again, a massive increase, it failed at about along the same, kind of close to the same percentages. It failed on a 3-to-1 basis too. So I think that shows us that overall, people in Bossier or Bossier Parish, at least, are not generally for huge tax increases, that make a huge leap at the very least.
Yeah. So, you know, look, the people in Bossier, um, I, I would argue that this thing in Halton, I think that they were wanting to be the next Caddo Bossier Port. They're wanting to pick the winners and the losers, or even they're wanting to be the next Bossier Police Jury or the next Bossier City or whatever. I think that was where they were going with it. And the big picture to me is when is everybody going to look? Y'all know I'm cynical. I'm cynical. I think things are coming apart. Even just today, Malaysia said they're decoupling with the dollar.
What? Oh,
Yeah, another country. There's so many countries that are decoupling with the dollar. I think we're starting to see a lot of things come apart, and it's our own fault. And maybe it's not. No, it is our fault. It's our fault because we haven't been involved in government. I
thank
mean,
you.
you look at these council meetings in Bossier City. There
Right.
are more empty seats every freaking meeting than there are filled seats. And that's because, and it's the same way with the police jury, it's the same way at the school board meetings. People are not engaged, you're not participating. And when it all falls apart, I'm sorry, we got to all look in the mirror.
Right.
That's what we got to do.
Right. You're right. Speaking of the city council meeting, shall we go ahead and hit that subject and take a look at that?
Yep.
Or you want to talk? All right. So good. That way I can hit publish, and I think hopefully. Let me make sure. Let me make sure we got audio here. Hold on, just say I'm just going to randomly hit play.
You will have no debt.
Yes. Oh, and I
Well,
randomly hit play right there in the middle of David Montgomery.
yeah, well, we gotta go back on that a little bit. So I put the mark at the beginning. I'm not gonna say what set him off. A ton of there's a ton of good points in there. You marked a lot of them,
Right.
but the main starting point was when Chris Smith proposed extending it for 2 more weeks, and then Montgomery. That's where he begins his rant, and I don't know where you want to start if we want to go there, but
There's so much content. It's like I don't know how I didn't even get through all of it yet, but there's probably 20 minutes or more of comment. I'll just say this. Um, oh man, I don't even know where to begin. I tell you what, let's reverse this. Let's start with Queen David's rant, and then we'll back it up and put some pieces together if we want to. How about that?
okay.
Let's
Well,
do it in
here you go.
reverse order.
I got it ready.
Hit it, Willis.
And I better ask Chris as he started this discussion. Chris, is there anything in the agreement, that we need to change to reintroduce it at our next meeting or what?
I think that is going to be up to each individual council member, or what if they feel like there needs to be any changes. I mean, based on this discussion, it sounds like there's still a few of us that have some concerns that, I don't know if you just need some time to think on what you've heard today, or if you want to make changes to the agreement. I mean, time is of the essence. I think this is a very important vote. And so,
King David incoming,
I mean, if
guys.
you're asking
Here we go.
my opinion, I'd be in favor of giving everybody an additional 2 weeks to think over the commentary that we've just had. To
I'm
make sure that
surprised he
everybody
didn't
makes
just
an
throw up his
informed
papers right there on the
decision
desk.
And doesn't jump.
Oh, yeah.
And use the decision that they made up last week after we've just had, I think, some very good dialogue, so.
Is that your motion,
Yeah,
Mr. Smith?
yeah, I'd make that motion to continue for 2 weeks and let everybody digest
Can
what we
we
just
talk
heard.
before that motion's
Here we
made?
go.
I mean, there's been some of us that sat here
Seatbelts
now
on.
for 30 or
Now-
40 minutes listening.
Now wait a minute. Did you hear what he just said? There's some of us who have been sitting here for 30 minutes just listening, and
Aw.
let me play that again.
Yeah, play that again.
And so,
Listen closely.
I mean, if you're asking my opinion, I'd be in favor of giving everybody an additional 2 weeks to think over the commentary that we've just had, to make sure that everybody makes an informed decision and doesn't jump and use the decision that they made up last week after we've just had, I think, some very good dialogue, so.
Is that your motion,
Yeah,
Mr. Smith?
yeah, I'd make that motion to continue for 2 weeks and let everybody digest what
Can
we
we
just
talk
heard.
before that motion's made? I mean, there's been some of us that sat here now for 30 or 40 minutes listening.
Aw.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Mr. Montgomery?
Wow, I didn't even catch that
I'll
earlier.
give you the floor.
Withdraw your motion?
Well, that's not a second.
Yeah, there's not, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just,
Point of
So-
order.
I'm not, we have sat here and unprecedentedly read a CEA word for word. I have certainly been in agreement over the past meetings and workshops that we've had to analyze this agreement and what obligations the city has. It's almost as if we're arguing or debating or bringing forth issues over and over and over again and stating them somehow in a different way. And I would dare say anybody, if they sat and listened to what has transpired over the period of time in the meetings, that we are now at a point where there's nothing else to do. No one that I've heard has brought up something that is substantive and substantial as far as changing the CEA. We talk about vague.
I'm gonna pause it for just a second because I
Sure.
can't help but wonder: does anybody know about all those workshops? Have we gotten any information about all those meetings and workshops that he described at the first introduction of this, before there was ever any of these guys having a workshop? Has anybody seen any of those?
Yeah. And look, let's not forget, they weren't going to have any workshops at all. If it was up to Queen David, they would have just rammed this through as always. How dare, this is the way I interpret. Let me give you Rex's interpretation of David Montgomery. How dare anyone question this? You don't have to read it, just pass it.
Yeah, I mean, just anyway, but he wasn't done. I just had to stop because I just want to know, has anyone seen all those workshops and meetings that he said in the council meeting had been had before?
Oh,
that
yeah.
Didn't
The
you know,
past ones, not even the most recent ones. The past, that's right.
So anyway, let's let him drone on.
The words, and then in 2 weeks, somebody else is going to say there's something vague about this. The deal is, and it's this simple, when we sell a gallon of water, we make $1.50. That's it. It doesn't matter what it costs. I've heard people talk about what it costs. I'm not saying it doesn't matter what it costs.
You just said it
By
doesn't
God,
matter.
we've got an enterprise fund. I can bring Angela up here as the CFO, and there's a reason. That means we account for expenses as a business does. In how in the world can you argue that we want to delay another 2 weeks to somehow change the agreement that we're going to make $1.50 no matter what the costs are per gallon of water? What are you going to change?
Maybe the
It's
ownership
all
of the
up to
pipes.
us.
I don't know.
Our city
Now, that's a really good point he's making, that somehow or another you're going to change the agreement, that you're going to make $1.50. Well, I mean, I thought you just said that you're making $1.50. Oh, wait a minute. Or are you making $1.25? Are you selling Are you selling water to Caddo Parish for $1.25 because you're giving 25 to the port, and you're charging Bossier Parish or North Bossier $1.50?
I,
I'm wondering.
well, there's so many
I,
places I could go
so
with this.
so I'm just saying, if you're charging Caddo Parish or the port $1.25, and because they're getting 25 cents of that, or time and a half, if they're getting that little bit there, I mean, I'm just wondering, are you going to have to reduce the price that you're charging the parish? Um,
Well, it's
then
all it's all in the
what's
C.
Bossier going to do?
It's all in the CEA, dude. Did you not read it? I mean, didn't you just hear David? It's just simple.
It's simple. It's real simple.
How many
So,
pages was that CEA?
but look, he's not done. Let's
Okay,
let's
okay.
see what else he has to say.
The attorney gave us the ordinance from 2014 that gives the power to allow anyone to connect to our water sewer service, the authorization from this city council. I don't know what you're going to change. It almost appears, and I'm speaking frankly now,
Oh,
that
now he's
we're
frank.
delaying this in hopes that we're going to find something, that there's this hidden thing, or there's this hidden agenda, something that's there that we're not grasping.
Oh,
Or
hidden-
maybe you're trying to
but-
rush it through because something is there. I don't know.
Well,
Why
there-
not use the counter to that?
Well, I'm just thinking this hidden thing. I'm just wondering when all those folks that are being charged more on the Bossier side of the river than what's happening on the Caddo side of the river. I'm just wondering, when they come calling wanting to get the same rate. I mean, which one of these council members are going to stand up and say, it's as if something's hidden? I mean, I don't know. I'm just wondering. But let's let him. He's not done. Hang on, guys. He's not done.
That there's somehow the city is going to be out of pocket cost. It is very clear. The argument's been made. Y'all have made very good points, very good arguments. But the answers are here from a man that we hired. He's our city engineer. He's also with Manchac. We've heard from our legal counsel. If we looked going forward as to a deal, let's say the Brookshire's Grocery Arena, and we look at potential costs. Let's talk about
Red
exposures
herrings.
to windstorms. Everybody's familiar with named storms.
No, not wind. Not windstorms.
Red herrings.
Not windstorms. Let's talk about ice storms, and let's talk about Manchac and their work during ice storms.
A little extra billing there, maybe? Does that ring a bell?
Maybe some extra billing there.
Okay.
But no. Okay, he said windstorm, so we'll stick with windstorms. Skip the ice storms.
Yeah.
That's hurricanes or whatever. So now there are 4-5% wind and hail deductibles, named storm. What if we looked at that and said, well, what if we had a storm down the road and we were going to be out of pocket $500,000 on a $50 million new building? I don't think that would be the justification for saying we're not going to build the building, because someday a windstorm may come in and we're going to be out of pocket $500,000, which is certainly a consideration, but I don't think it would be something that would tell for us to say we're not going to do it and have Brookshire's Grocery Arena. In this case, though, we were not going to have that. If, in fact, there is a catastrophic failure of the line and it costs the city money, what's going to happen, Mr. Rauschenbach?
You know why I click pause?
Go ahead.
I don't want
I
to.
haven't heard I haven't heard this beyond this point. This is where I
Well,
stopped earlier.
well, I want to give the listeners of our show's ears just a little bit of a break. I don't want to permanently damage them because if I do, how are they going to be able to continue to listen to our show?
They're going to go to sleep tonight with Queen David in their ears.
They deserve a break here for a second. So, I mean, maybe this little pause is giving them. So here's the rest.
Back. The city is going to bill those users. And those costs will be associated with the enterprise fund, which will then be factored in to the net income, which is split 50-50. So I personally, if I was a businessman and someone came to me and said, will you do this deal? And you will have no debt, which we've affirmed, correct?
That is correct.
You will have no extra expense, and for every gallon of whatever it is you're going to produce, you're going to make $1.50. And there's no recourse of expense, of debt, of anything. There isn't another deal like that in the business world. And I dare anybody to tell me that there is one out there because I want to go do it. I want to be a part of that deal. I would be a part of this deal with the exception that I'm an elected official and I cannot because of ethics.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Did he just say that he can't be a part of this because of ethics and yet he's writing the insurance for the port?
Yeah, why didn't you just disclose that, David, in the public meeting?
No, he just said he's an elected official and he can't. He can't. I mean, well, how is he going to be a part of the deal? What other way?
Is all this soliloquy so he can recuse himself? Is that what he's about to do, or not vote, or abstain?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't recuse himself. But what is he talking about as an elected official he can't be a part of? That's what's making me wonder. What is he talking about?
Good question. He's apparently on his back tires, as a friend of mine who used to drag race used to say.
Well, he's not done. So
And wait a minute. Hold on just a second. Somebody said hissy fit. There we go. He is having a hissy fit. My grandmother used to say that. He is having a hissy fit. Just wait. He will be kicking on the floor.
Here we go.
So, as people have pointed out, I am passionate about this. I believe that based on what is going on across the river, which all of y'all seen in the Shreveport Times, what's happening? Their bond rating went down. Why? Lack of revenue. Their rates are going up because of why? Lack of revenue. Here we stand today, this city council, with the opportunity to protect our citizens.
Wait a minute. The opportunity to protect our citizens. He's putting on all the other councilmen there that they have before them the opportunity to protect all citizens. And basically he's saying that if you don't support this, you're not protecting all the citizens. You see what's happening across the river and their bond rating. Lack of revenue. Well, I'm just wondering, does he know something about revenue to come in this deal that maybe everybody else on the council doesn't know?
Wait, are you
that's
saying he
right.
has insider information?
Well, that's right. I mean, he did talk about all these workshops that, nobody else here has been a part of. Apparently he has. And Rex, I'm going to tell you, sources tell me that your police jurors do have some inside knowledge, and they haven't been sharing with their counterparts here at Bossier City. And in fact, some of a former police juryman and current police juryman made their way down to one Maggio grocery to squeeze Maggio to vote for this. Maybe they told Maggio some of the insider information that David Montgomery hasn't allowed the rest of his cohorts on this council know about. So why would he know it anyway? Oh, because maybe of his ethics, and maybe because he would have to recuse himself as he's being an elected official, and or maybe he knows it because he writes the insurance for the police jury. I mean, maybe that's why he knows and all the rest of them doesn't know. But we have to speculate because he doesn't say what is the ethical thing that he says he has to recuse himself for. He doesn't. We don't know. We have to guess. Okay, but he's not.
This is interesting because I literally, again, I'm hearing this for the first time too, so I'm trying to process this as we're watching it.
So he's not done.
The people of Bossier City that elected us, that we took an oath of office, a fiduciary responsibility to be stewards of the taxpayers' money, to ensure or mitigate the fact that we will not have water rate increases going forward, that we will not have bond ratings declining.
Mr. President, can I call for the question?
Okay.
I'm good with calling for the question, but I wanted my piece to be said for the record because I've sat patiently and I've listened, and in my business experience,
Okay.
I say this is a wonderful deal for all.
And for all, it's a wonderful deal. And in his business experience and from his time now, if Jeff Sadow is correct, in which I think he is, he does the math, Bossier City residents, all of you, Bossier City has the highest debt per capita of any city in the state of Louisiana. And can you tell me, everybody watching, which councilman do you think's business experience has guided that? Which one? Bueller? Bueller?
Interesting.
So Bubba, apparently, to his credit and to Darby's, they had all they could take. Just call the vote. And I got to tell you, I called it wrong because I didn't think that the vote was going to go this way. But you know what?
All right. Don't spoil it, though, because I literally haven't seen the vote either.
Well, if Maggio was already done turned, they went and sprinkled the magic dust on him and had Maggio turned, in which I can tell you, sources tell me that Bill Altimus, now on the port, former parish administrator, former police juryman, turned port good old boy, went down there with another police juror from South Bossier to pressure Vince to vote in favor of this thing. Why does the police jury have more information about a deal that they're trying to get Bossier City to do than the Bossier City councilmen themselves? Why is that?
Why would they even meet? If the allegations are true, why would they even meet with him?
I mean, they live in the city too. I mean,
Okay.
I don't
Well,
think
if they went
district.
If they went down there as individual citizens, that's one thing. I wonder, again, allegations, but I wonder if they went down there as representatives of the police jury.
Well,
if this is a city deal.
Well, at the end of the day, they could go down there and they could go court him as citizens of Bossier City. But I'm betting Altimus went down there as a representative of the port, as well as, Tom Salzer. That's who it was. He went down there probably on behalf of the police jury. I mean, neither one of them live in his district, so it had to be in those capacities. They went down there to push him.
I want to point out that Greg Bell says Jeff Sadow put out a blog that arrived in his email at 6:30. He lays it out fiercely. I did see the email. I haven't read the blog yet with all the other stuff and trying to get ready for this. So we would encourage everybody. We'll post a link to it in the comments, and then we'll post a link to it after the show, after I review it. So just to let everybody know.
Yeah, so are we ready to kind of see which way this deal went?
Let's wrap it up. I'm chomping at the bit to see how the vote went.
Well, here you go.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery.
And I second his motion for calling for the question.
All right, we'll move forward. We have a motion by Mr.
President,
Hammond
can I say something, Mr. President?
Yes, sir. Are we on a time limit on this thing to get this thing board? Ain't there a time schedule that we got to get this thing done?
Mayor, thank you. I was trying to say to the council, and I appreciate you asking that question. This is one which easily, if asked, if 2 weeks is that long a period of time, no, it's not. I'm asking you to please not delay it 2 weeks, and I'll say why. 2 weeks is not a long period of time, but 2 weeks is an eternity to a project of this magnitude. We had envisioned this project being bid weeks, months ago, and we have gladly gone through the work sessions and the iterations of the CEA and the question and answer. But
Mr. England,
delay
can I
till
interrupt you?
April, I'm sorry.
Can I interrupt you? And I'm sorry. A project that evidently we know nothing about, but the police sure knows all about. And not that I get mad about that, but we're the ones voting on it. And they're calling us to say, man, y'all do it, y'all do it. But anyway,
Okay.
I understand, but I'm ready to vote.
Thank you for saying that. If we delay this anymore, rather said, we've talked to contractors. We know what this type of project entails. We need the summer months for this job. If we delay, what's going to happen is the price of the project is going to go up because contractors are going to know that they're going to be installing this line in wet weather, open ditches in wet weather. It's going to spill over into the fall, and our cost is going to go up. Let's keep the cost down.
Speed him up a little.
Oh, I was thinking, wow, he's going faster. Good job, Eric.
The summer months.
Thank you, Mr. England.
Thank you.
We're going to open the floor for comments. I know we've already discussed stuff here, but there may be someone out there who would like to speak on this item before we vote. This is the final vote, actually. Okay, there's no one. Council, please cast your vote.
Good one, Michael Ferris.
Motion carries.
What? Stop. Yeah.
All right, read them and weep, boys and girls.
Wow.
Read them and weep. So, I want to read something. You know, like Rex, I mean, look, I'm cynical. I mean, I think we're in a bad place in country, government, all. And something I go back to, I go backwards to read where and why and what and how we're supposed to be. And I refer back to Frederick Bastiat and the law. And I want to read just a short little sentence. Law and charity are not the same. The mission of the law is not to oppress persons and plunder them of their property. Even though the law may be acting in a philanthropic spirit, its mission is to protect persons and property. What we just did right here, is that protecting its citizens and its property? Or is it plundering the citizens and their property? Because you've got a unelected board, who is getting taxpayer dollars and picking winners and losers, giving tax breaks. If any of you in the show, any of you that are commenting, if any of you want to build some stinking battery plant in South, Bossier or Caddo Parish, do you think you would get the tax benefit that all these folks would get? Or that, the people that are going to be coming down there or they're proposing, do you think that you would get that? No. I'm telling you wouldn't. How is it that they're getting to pick the winners and losers? That's not what government's about. It's not what it's supposed to be about. It's not about plundering you, your property rights, to be able to pay for somebody else to come in here and get some benefit that you can't get. And again, I'm just wondering that $1.50, we're going to give the same price to the people in Bossier? Are they going to get it for the same price that Caddo Parish is going to get it?
Yeah.
Why should they not? And then what are you going to do when you got the shortcoming in revenues? We kept hearing revenue.
Yeah, I did not expect the vote to be like that. I expected it to pass, But there's a couple of votes in there. One in particular that I'm not happy with. But it is what it is.
Well, look. So let's play devil's advocate here. So if you you know what? I'm not going to play devil's advocate. I'm just going to leave it alone. Let everybody read it, and
Yeah.
it's done.
It's
and
done.
We're going to know whether it was the right call or whether it was the wrong call, and we're going to know if the Bossier City residents are going to end up paying more money for somebody else to benefit. And was this legal plunder, as Frederick Bastiat wrote about? And we're going to know, was this legal plunder or not?
When we come back and we're on show 300, we'll be able to look back and say, was this plunder or was it a good deal? Should we all just listen to Queen David no matter what?
Somebody just messaged me and said all Republicans in favor, non-GOPs were against it in that vote.
Let me switch back to that screen real quick. One more time for the folks in the back. That's how the vote was. Very interesting. All right, Mr. Lowry. Do we really have anything else we want to talk about tonight, or are we going to go ahead and call it quits and get back to our other pressing things that we're involved in?
I'm going to tell you, I got to tip my hat to Bubba Don and to Darby. Man, those guys dug their heels in. They asked questions. Everything was vague in my opinion. And I got to tell you, I don't trust, not for 1 minute, that this deal is going to go the way it was articulated. I hope it does. Hope I'm wrong. I've got no faith in it myself. If you say in the meeting verbally, this is the way it's going to be, it should read that way in the CEA. It should read that way. And I think Bubba Don and Darby were on the mark that it doesn't read the way they're saying. They say it one way, but it reads a different way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong.
And if it comes down to a deal in court, they're going to go by how it's written. But we'll see. And I agree with you. Hat tip to Darby and hat tip to Bubba Don. They stood their ground. They didn't vote just because the rest of the council was voting for it. So hat tip to them. Yep,
they deserve credit. And at that point that somebody messaged and made that it was all the Republicans, and I can tell you, and I will pull it out. I don't have it right here handy with me, but the Republican Party platform that in 2016 I was a part of at the National Convention that was drafted, it specifically talks about crony capitalism and picking the winners and losers, and that's not what the Republican Party stands for. But yet, that's exactly what the Republican Party just voted to do.
That me. That's why don't consider myself mainstream Republican, even though that's the way I vote. I have so many issues with that. But anyway, that's another discussion for another show. All right, Mr. Lowry. Anything else you want to bring up tonight?
Hey, yeah, that's all I got for tonight. I'm good. I'm going to stop right there. I started to say something else, but hey, Greg Bell did send some stuff. We'll have to look through that. And next show, obviously, it looks like we may be talking about the DA's office a little bit. I think that will get some attention.
That should be interesting. And folks, as always, if you have some information you want to share with us, make a free Proton Mail account. Don't put any identifying information in it. If you want to keep it anonymous, send it to bossierwatch@protonmail.com. Or if you just want to send stuff generally, you can send it to that too, or to the bossierwatch@gmail.com. We obviously do check those. Except for my failure back on March the 18th or whenever it was, we do generally pay really close attention to those. But like I said, try to send us some more information rather than just an allegation. Try to send us something more to go on, because that helps us out. I mean, it's only Duke and I, and to be honest, Duke, you do a lot of the digging on it. I kind of handle more of the tech side.
Not much lately.
Yeah. So we've both been wrapped up with term limits. We'll talk some more about that next show too. Maybe give folks an update on that. Yes, we do need, Ryan, our good friend Ryan Haygood says we do need volunteers to knock on doors. Sell it. That means, come on, folks, we need some help with knocking on doors. Send us a message, send us a text message. We can use all the help we can get on the term limits end of it. I think I've said pretty much everything. Go to the website, buy a coffee mug, donate if you want. If you don't, hey, we're going to be here next week doing it again unless we delay the show or something. But we try to give everybody a heads up when we do that.
Yeah, on the term limits thing, guy, let me just real quick, Rex, I'm sorry. Hey, guys, it is an easy ask. Overwhelmingly, when we go to these doors and we knock on people's doors and we tell them what we're trying to do, I mean, it's rare that people don't want it. And it's not anything against any one person. It's just that overwhelmingly people believe it's good government and they want to have just overturn in their government. And
yeah, I actually went and helped you knock on a few doors last week or whatever. We're going to try to do some more of that this week as well. I'll commit to that and try to help get as many signatures as I can. And folks, we need your help.
Now, Michael Ferris, I just wanted to point out, I mean, this may be a cheese cutter hat. I don't know what a cheese cutter hat is, but for the purposes of me wearing this hat, this is Happy Wife, Happy Life Night. Okay.
Is that a fedora?
A what?
Fedora. Fedora. Is it a fedora hat? Is that the correct term for
it? Look,
help us out, folks, in the comments.
We're from Friends, and I'm from Halton, and if I'd been in the same place with you, I'd probably punch you right now. So
I didn't say Dora the Explorer. I said fedora, which David says no. Okay, so it's not a fedora. The old Tom Landry hat, who was coach of the Cowboys back in the good old days.
So that's some kind of Elm Grove stuff, huh, Womack?
Okay, Michael Ferris says no, it's not a fedora. David verified again, no, it's not. Okay, all right. Well, I was trying to figure out what the hat it was.
I'm gonna have to look up fedora. I learned something today. I have no idea. I'll look it up. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching.
Okay, see y'all later. Have a good night.